By all accounts, is not recorded in front of a live studio audience. Oh, my precious Zach, what if I told you that Jaylen Waddle is the next Dolphin to get a big money extension? What if I told you that was the next man that Chris Grier targeted? What would you tell me?
I would be a little bit shocked, and I would tell you that I would think Tua would be the next one up just to kind of get that out of the way so you don't have to worry about it anymore. But the way the wide receivers have been being paid in this last couple of weeks, and we've seen it, I mean, the Eagles now have two guys in the top 6 or 7 highest paid with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Waddle was coming soon. I didn't realize it would be before Phillips and Holland and all of them. But, woof, those dollars today. Oh, my God. Jaylen Waddle, just in case you want to spend some of that money on something quality, we could easily just put your face here, a penguin, whatever you want, for a couple G's. You got 70 or 80 million now. A couple G's ain't anything. That's nothing.
By all accounts, presented by Jaylen Waddle, it just rolls off the tongue.
Right.
And by the way, you might be asking yourself, how do Zach and Ken have time to do an emergency Jaylen Waddle episode of By All Accounts? It's because we're not contributing members to society, and we don't have a goddamn thing else to do on a Thursday afternoon. So here we are. Jaylen Waddle gets a new extension, and we saw it first with Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter, he is the one who, and just trust me on it, he's the one who first put it out on his Twitter account. This just in, Miami wide receiver Jaylen Waddle reached an agreement today on a 3-year, $84.75 million contract extension that includes $76 million guaranteed. The deal makes Waddle one of the league's top 5 highest paid receivers. Jaylen Waddle is the next man up on Chris Grier's long list of contract extensions. So, Jaylen Waddle, just initially, your first thoughts in your head, and you've had some time to consume this, but I want to ask you straight up, is this good?
I'm going to go with the yes answer on this because I have a caveat to this that I'm sure a lot of Dolphin fans are not going to want to hear. You had to lock Jaylen Waddle up because next season, not this one coming up that we're looking forward to training camp and the playoffs and all that, the 2025 season, I believe, will not have a certain other wide receiver on the roster because his guaranteed money is gone in Tyreek Hill. And I think you had to lock Jaylen Waddle up at this point to make sure, just in case things go sour and go south and go every which way but good with Tyreek when it comes to either giving him more money, signing him, or letting him go or trade him. Waddle has to be here. He's a core member, a young member of this team. So, yeah, the money's stupid, obviously. Wide receivers years ago didn't get paid jack shit. Now, all of a sudden, they're getting the biggest contracts, and they're one of those positions that you have to have an ace on your team. I'm more looking at this as, yeah, it's a ton of money, but these guys are getting paid. And it's not my money. That's another thing. And if Tyreek's not here in 2 years and somehow you let the Waddle situation go to shit, man, oh man, Chris Grier will be hearing it from everybody, going from having 2 probably top 8 or top 10 wide receivers in the league to 0 if that happened in 2 years from now. So I think it's a good signing. Like I said, not my money. I don't care.
Chris Grier, this is part of what's going to be 2 years from now major evaluation process. Why this is good, and it at least keeps Dolphins fans kind of in the loop here. There's not any drama with this offense and with the full-fledged support behind Mike McDaniel and this group of players that he's been able to this point offensively maximize. This right here, this is the biggest vote of confidence. Forget Tua for a moment because we know that's coming. This is the biggest vote of confidence that Chris Grier has Mike McDaniel's back, and Mike McDaniel is telling him these are key components to make this offense go the best it possibly can and keep us competitive. We got to get Jaylen Waddle locked in for number 1 money, and Chris Grier said, deal, bet, we'll do it. So from that standpoint, and there's a further debate to be had about whether or not Jaylen Waddle deserves number one money at some point in his career, which is going to be hitting around 2026. The fact of the matter is, there is this holy trinity on the Dolphins offense, the three guys that are most synonymous with one another: Tua, Tyreek, and Jaylen Waddle. And now, at least next year and at 2025, those guys are seemingly locked in. That is your core, and you move on from there. So that is absolutely a good thing, and that is giving deserved money to a guy, Zach, who's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. This is a guy in Jaylen Waddle who has, while missing some games due to injury last year, been fairly dependable. He's an outstanding third down option. We know how quick he is. So it's deserved, the act of being paid. The actual money is what gets us into what does this mean. Let's take a look at over the cap, at Jason_over the cap. Look at some of these numbers now, Zach, and you were alluding to it. So you've got A.J. Brown. I mean, that's huge money. Look at Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill still, and let's not get caught up in the 84.75 of that, the guaranteed money coming in at around 76. Forget the 76 for a moment, and let's just focus on the fully guaranteed, the what is being paid at time of signing. Tyreek Hill still has the most in the history of the league as a wide receiver at 52. It looks like Jaylen Waddles is going to come in somewhere in the late 30s, early 40s range with that. To see Jaylen Waddle up there with, say, Devontae Smith, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, really placing himself in those top four in any financial metric, it makes me a little bit uneasy. I'm glad he got locked up, but I suppose the name I look at, Devontae Smith, I would argue Jaylen Waddle more deserving than Devontae Smith of this type of money. The Eagles already gave him the money, so this is just sort of the way it is.
Right. I mean, you saw, and let me tell you, this list that we're looking at right now and that you're looking at right now if you're watching this video, it is going to be fully changed within the next 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. There's so many more guys. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. There are 3 or 4 more guys that are up for these big extensions that we're waiting in the background to see what happened with Devontae Smith, Jaylen Waddle, A.J. Brown, guys like that. Philly went all in with their 2 guys. Dolphins have went in with all their 2 guys. You're going to see some more money change hands. So we're going to kind of insert Jaylen Waddle in a position, and within the next month, he's going to be down 3 or 4 notches. Like, he'll be moved down a little bit because other guys are going to get paid. Justin Jefferson, I'm assuming, will be the top of this list, and Jamar Chase probably will be number 2 on this list, if not number 1 on this list in a couple of weeks when it's all said and done. Listen, the wide receiver market has changed. I just talked about it before. These are guys that a couple of years back, if you're making $10 million a year, that's a really good wide receiver salary. And then all of a sudden, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill changed everything for everybody. When now you need to pay these guys upwards of $25 million a year, if not $30 million a year. They need to be given guaranteed. I mean, look, I was looking at one of the points of the contract for Jaylen Waddle. Do you know how much money he got just to sign his name? Do you know that number? $35.9 million signing bonus. Yep. Just right there. Part of the guaranteed money, obviously. But he put pen to paper and then went like this. Refreshed the Bank of America app a couple times. Oh, $35.9 million in there. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. This is what's happening around the league right now. The wide receiver position has changed dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years, and doesn't necessarily mean you need one to win one. The Eagles did win a Super Bowl, obviously. The Lions have gotten far. Dolphins, not much. Raiders, nothing. Rams won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Texans are probably on their way to becoming a really good team. Seahawks, meh. 49ers you've seen, and Debo's having a huge problem there also. These guys are just getting paid. I was okay with locking up Jaylen Waddle because of the fact, like I said before, I've heard too many things about Tyreek Hill guaranteed money after this season coming up. Just there's no more guarantees. The contract is still there.
That's right. The key point. There is zero guaranteed money after 2024.
And he's going to want it. Ken, Tyreek Hill, we've seen him down here. We saw him when he was leaving Kansas City. He left Kansas City because of the Devontae Adams deal, because of all the money Devontae Adams got after the trade to the Raiders. He sees Jaylen Waddle, probably very happy for him, but he is going to wait. My speculation on this whole thing, and I know nothing about it. I've never talked to Tyreek Hill, his management, his yoga instructor, the ice cream guy down the street. I don't know any of these people that live near Tyreek Hill. I will tell you this: Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and whoever else is on that short list is going to sign in the next couple of weeks, next month or so. Then we're going to hear about Tyreek wanting a new extension. And that's where I think the waters start to get a little bit muddy with Tyreek, where you're going to keep him for this year as a Dolphins, as an organization. And then you really have to make a decision. Do you want to pay this guy the top dollar once again to keep him there? Or do you move on? Which is the scariest thing I've heard, because Tyreek Hill, when he got to this Dolphins team, I was happier than pig and shit. I was so excited to have Tyreek Hill here. But the older these guys get, their legs start to give out a little bit on them. And Tyreek's entire game is the fact that he is a speed guy. If that drops at all, this guaranteed money falls, then this Waddle signing is going to look a lot better, I think, for Dolphin fans.
So that does bring us to what's next, obviously. And just you mentioned $35.9 million guaranteed. This is according to Spotrac. So this slots Jaylen Waddle, again, fully guaranteed, not total guaranteed. Fully and total are two entirely different things. Right. The total guaranteed is 76.5 or so. The fully guaranteed comes in at 35. So if you look at Devontae Smith at 33.9, nearly 34, then Jaylen Waddle edges him in terms of the fully guaranteed money. Also, part of this guaranteed money is $19.9 that he's due in 2024. And then the big money kicks in, the number one wide receiver money kicks in 2026. And as we embark on this conversation of what's next and 2026 and Jaylen Waddle getting that number one receiver money, this goes back to what Zach was already discussing. Look at these cap hits, by the way, for Jaylen Waddle. Again, according to Spotrac, this year, $9 million. That's up only $1.28 million for a team that is in the mud with the cap. They'll get a little bit of a break in a couple of days when the Xavier Howard contract is off the books officially. I believe that opens up, like $18.5 million?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So this only ups the cap number by about $1.28 million. That's great. 2025, $19.9 million cap hit. That's superb. That's supreme. That's excellent. Then jumps to 21 and 26, and then you start getting into, Jaylen Waddle, 27.7, 31.1. Those are your cap hits in 27 and 28. Nowhere near this year's 51 for Tyreek Hill when it comes to the dead cap money. But you can see that this rises exponentially, dead cap, as we get on, and the money kicks in, that number one receiver money. So now what's next? This is a good thing, as we said earlier. You have this core intact. What I will say is that this also means once the Tua contract gets taken care of, or if they franchise tag him, whatever. I'm just talking about for the next 2 years, 2024 season, 2025 season. This is the window now. This is the window. If you can't find a way to shore up the defense, if you can't find a way to shore up the offensive line, if you can't find the way to win the AFC East, host some playoff games, and win after Thanksgiving, then you might have to wait a while for another championship window. Would the Dolphins be competitive? Sure, but championship caliber like they currently are now, in my opinion, I don't think so. You're going to have to be patient again. This is the window now. And the biggest reason this is the window is because of everything you so accurately mentioned, Zach. After 2025, you don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to be here. And I'm just curious if the contract extension for Jaylen Waddle has Tyreek Hill asking for a restructure. Has Tyreek Hill asking for an extension? Right now, the contract states that the final year of the deal is 2026, okay? Tyreek Hill's deal goes through 2026, but the dead cap money, because the guaranteed money runs out, takes a precipitous drop after this year, and it's completely washed up after 2025. There will be no more guaranteed money to give Tyreek Hill. So he either is a good soldier and says, I'm just going to play out my contract, and he stands by what he says. I'm going to play through 2025, and that's it for me. So fine. Or he says, hey, Dolphins, now you pay Jaylen Waddle. Now it's time to redo my deal. He's going to be 33 at the end of this contract. You're very seriously looking at a future where come 2026, Jaylen Waddle is indeed your number one wide receiver. And the fundamental question is Jaylen Waddle a number one receiver? And my fundamental answer is nuh-uh.
That is going to be, I look at the contract and I see, like you said before, $9 million, 19, 21. That's the contract in my eyes, because at the end of that year, at the end of that 26 season, when you get into the humongous money with him, 27, 7, 31, those last 2 years of this extension, this deal, if he's not a number one clear-cut 1A wide receiver at that point, I think at that point they're going to try to move on from even Jaylen Waddle at that point. Or if he is, and he turns out to be a number one guy or a 1A, 1B guy, if they draft or bring another guy in, that's when you'll see another extension thrown his way to move that cap room down to sign another guy. I think Jaylen Waddle could be a number one receiver. He's just not right now. I think he's a 1B, and I think he's great at 1B. Although his first year he played pretty good as a 1A, but not a guy that people were scared of. Like Tyreek Hill, people are scared. Defensive coordinators lose sleep all week thinking about what Tyreek Hill is going to do. Devontae Adams is going to do. You name the top dog, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, guys like that. I don't think Waddle's in that category yet. I don't think Devontae Smith's in that category where people are scared of him being a number one guy. Both guys are really good, but when you get past that third year of this extension, that's when the real question is going to come for Jaylen Waddle, because he's going to be making serious money by then. Although we say that, and in 3 or 4 years, $27 million could be the going rate for a tier 2 wide receiver. Right, not knowing what the NFL is like. Who knows? Amazon and Apple, they keep spending money with the NFL, $27 million a year. We could be looking at that going, Chris Grier was a genius. What a steal he got for Jaylen Waddle. I hope that's the case. I hope you're wrong, and I hope that's the case, and he becomes a 1A guy, and he's worth the money, and everything is great. But we have to see what's like. We've seen what this offense is like when one of those wide receivers is not on board. I can't think right now what this offense would look like if there was no Tyreek Hill and just Jaylen Waddle as the number one guy.
Let me correct something I said earlier too. I know I said that the cap hit for Tyreek Hill drops precipitously going into next year from 51. It's actually 53 to 22. That's the dead cap. The cap hit. That cap hit becomes extremely problematic after this year. This is the first year of problems. It continues next year. It's 31 cap hit this year for Tyreek, 34-25, 56 in 2026. So that's massive. There's no way in 2026 you have Tyreek Hill at a $56 million cap hit and Jaylen Waddle with a $21 million cap hit.
No way.
Absolutely not happening in any universe. So all I'm saying with this, now that I've ombudsman myself, I wanted to clarify that because that's important. Don't get confused by the dead cap. Looks better for Tyreek after this year, but the actual cap hit is gigantic, and only to get more catastrophic as we move on, that this window is now. This window is 2024 and 2025, because what I just mentioned is why there's a good chance that in 2026, there's no Tyreek Hill. And in 2026, there's the opportunity potentially. It would make sense for you, because of the dead cap money, to just flat out release Tyreek Hill and move on from a guy that's 33 years old. So all signs are pointing to Jaylen Waddle is now the heir apparent wide receiver 1. And as a Dolphins fan, does that make me comfortable? No. Yeah, obviously, Chris Grier could do something and bring in someone else. But the fact of the matter is, you'd be relying on an unbelievable, immediate contributing wide receiver 1, or you're paying 2 guys like number 1 receivers, which I don't know is overly sustainable, especially when you've given generational money to a quarterback who's going to be in the middle of that as well.
Right. And you look at that list that you posted up also with all those numbers on here. There's another team on here with 2 massive contracts. That's the Texans with Diggs and Nico Collins. They just gave Nico Collins that money. They're also going to have to pay another wide receiver out there very quickly soon also. The Diggs stuff's going to be off the books, the 25 void. He won't be on that team, or he'll restructure by then. But you see where this is going. There's a lot of really good teams on here that have their number one guy. And if their number one guy and their number two guy isn't on this list with them, they're right underneath. That, I'm telling you, that wide receiver position right now is so wacky in the NFL that normally a team has one really good wide receiver, then a couple of guys that fit in the blank. There are teams now that have 2 or 3 number ones or close to number ones and have to pay them for it. It'll never be sustainable. That's why it was perfect by getting Tyreek Hill and having Jaylen Waddle on that rookie deal. But now that Jalen's not going to be on that rookie deal, it's really tough to carry 2 of these guys at that position for that much money. I don't think Tyreek Hill is here much longer. I'm not saying, within 6 months he's gone. I just think this year he plays it out. And then if somehow, some way they could restructure or do something and send him to another team or release him with money, I think it's going to end up happening. I don't think Tyreek Hill's on this team even next season. I know your window is this year or next year. I think the Tyreek Hill window ends after this season, unless they win a Super Bowl and then you're bringing guys back and Stephen Ross is happy and paying everybody. But let's say they have close to the same ending as last year, first round exit, maybe a wild card win and a second round exit. If Tyreek Hill is not making that much money and getting you over the top, but Jaylen Waddle could still be your quote-unquote other one guy, I don't see Tyreek Hill in a Dolphins jersey a year from now getting ready for training camp in Miami Gardens. I just don't see it.
So I think what this all means is that the championship window is now. There will be no Jaylen Waddle drama. You take care of Tua, Jalen Phillips, maybe Javon Holland this offseason. But the championship window is now, because post-Tyreek Hill era, after what happened today with Jaylen Waddle, could be coming sooner rather than later. I think that properly sums everything up. So, is this good? Yes. What does this mean? There's confidence and support from the front office towards Mike McDaniel, this core, the vision, what this offense become, what's next. Well, you got to get it done, and it's got to get done soon, because, again, would you still be competitive? Yes, but there'd be some shifting of pieces around post-Tyreek Hill era that would probably stunt this thing for a little bit, and you're facing the prospect of Jaylen Waddle, number one wide receiver money. And yes, is that the reality? Sure. Does it make one comfortable and believe that Jaylen Waddle's a number one? I'm not quite sure that anybody with a common sense brain, even with the 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, believes that he's actually a consistent, solid number one wide receiver.
Right. Yeah. I need to see it a little bit more from Jaylen at this point. And I'm not saying he's in a prove me season, because that's obviously not the case with just getting this extension. But I would like to see him put up a little bit better numbers this year. Maybe not use Tyreek as a decoy, because I like when Tyreek has the ball. But I'd like to see Waddle stay healthy, have a really good season, and then at the end of the year go, you know what? Glad we got that extension signed. He is going to be the future of this team. But it's kind of a show me year for him when it comes to if you're not on the right page of him being a number one receiver guy type of season for fans. This is it. This is going to be big, because I do think there's going to be some wholesale changes with some of the other guys on the team. Not the core. The core, you just said it, Ken. Ken just basically told you the core. It's Jalen Phillips. It's Javon Holland. It's Jaylen Waddle. It's Achane. It's Tua. Like, those are the 5 guys I think 100% going forward are on this team, outside of the Chop Robinsons and some of the rookie guys. I'm saying the legit core of this team are all up for extensions right now, and Waddle just got his. Tua, Phillips, Holland have to be next at this point, and you can't mess up any of these, because you need those guys on the field going forward. But anyone else a little bit older, making a lot of money, they don't win now, probably going to be in a different jersey sooner rather than later.
So I'm hoping 2-year window. Zach's saying the window might be this year. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say is, Tyreek, please, I'm looking right at you. please don't make this a soap opera. Please, please,
Right.
please, please, please don't make this a soap opera. Just be glad for Jaylen Waddle. Let's play through this year and let's go to a 25 and finish it the right way. Okay, that's my open public plea to Tyreek Hill. All right, tomorrow will be a regular full episode by all accounts. We'll talk about this on a broader perspective for the Dolphins offense and the Dolphins as a whole, and a hell of a lot of other stuff to do. A reminder, subscribe, youtube.com/@allaccountsshow, youtube.com/@allaccountsshow. Zach, we'll talk to you tomorrow, buddy.
Right in the butt.
Right in the butt. Pat Sajak approved. This has been an emergency episode by all accounts, Jaylen Waddle edition.